Love Madden Brotherhood League. Welcome to episode 7 of CoachTy's Corner. I want to apologize last week for not hosting the show with Reggie. Me and him had mixed signals. Reggie's got a new job. He works a lot of hours, and we wasn't able to make it happen. I had a few people asking me about the show, so we're back on track this week. And this week, instead of starting off with Ty's observations in the Madden world, we have a guest today, Philly in Canada. You know him as our commissioner, or the owner of the Philadelphia Eagles in League 1 and the Philadelphia Eagles in League 2. Coincidence? Anyway, this time we'll turn this over to Philly, who's got a few issues he'd like to address. So welcome, Philly in Canada.
Well, thank you, Ty. I'm going to start off by just talking about the last couple weeks. I'll go through the notes I have written down, and then if Ty has any additional questions or if I forget something, we can bring that up. Last couple weeks, we've seen a lot of changes in ownership, particularly in League 1, and particularly with some of our regular guys that have become favorites or focal points in the league, guys like Lockdown and Pride. Obviously, replacing these guys are tough, and we've had some good replacements and then some not so good replacements. Obviously, it's very, very difficult to get 32 committed guys in one league. But as a core group, I honestly feel like we have a really good league, and a lot of us have been around a while. The only way that we have, unless an owner has a referral, the only way that we have as far as recruiting is posting on the forums. Jay, Noel fan, typically does some posting for us, and the last time he posted when we were trying to fill up League 2, he did pretty well, and we got some quality guys. Sometimes you get some owners that just don't fit. And case in point, and I'm not going to name names, but recently there was a Vikings owner in League 1 dropping players left and right, and people were questioning, why is he doing this? He had major connection issues with 3 to 4 of his games. I went back and traced some of his older games in League 2, and they said that he had connection issues. Then he comes and tells me, oh, it's not his, and he started blaming longtime members of the league, saying it's their connection. Let's be honest here. We've all been in this league for almost a year now, running our 3rd season, and I know the owners that don't have connection issues, so I kind of had a hard time kind of swallowing what he was saying. With that being said, and then the constant gibberish in the chat boxes half the time, after I talked with Ty and talked with Spud and a few other people, he wasn't a good fit for the league, so I ended up bumping him in both League 1 and League 2. As far as League 2 goes, I feel like we have a good core group of owners that get their games in. Some of which of these owners that I've, noticed over the last couple weeks that they were playing their games quick and, they seem to be really into it. I've invited them into League 1. Case in point, Chicago Tough 23, who took over the Vikings. I've had multiple conversations with him. Appears to be a good guy. Kids, mid-30s, into the league, looking for an honest place to play. I told him that, he probably did find the right spot. But, just like League 1 did last year, we're going to have growing pains in League 2. I'm excited about League 2. I like the cap thing, and I like the new faces and whatnot over there. So going backwards, I already talked about Loho Haldragon or whatever his name was. That was the Vikes owner. I just don't want people out there thinking that we decide to pick on somebody and we boot them. That's not the case. I'll give another example is everybody knows Art. Art has been in the league since the beginning. Art has quite a history with us. At one point after season 1, he quit the league, saying that he gets beat bad and it's not fun, blah, blah, blah. And then the next day he texted me and asked to come back in, and then he didn't mean it and he wanted to come back in, so we let him back in. And then this past Madden 13 draft, we had quite a fiasco with Art as well, as far as drafting his team, so we got that straightened out. But over the last 12 months with Art, there has been probably 5 to 6 episodes where people were involved in games with Art, and he gets frustrated, upset, and he jumps off sides multiple times, which then cues the excessive grieving note and then basically disconnects you, and you have to play your game over again. I have 4 separate instances of that, not even including myself. So therefore, I thought it was best that maybe Art finds another league as well. A couple other side notes. The chat box. League One's chat box, other than one episode a couple weeks ago, everybody keeps it clean and fair, and I really appreciate a couple weeks ago, Trevor / UGA Dog, there was some uncalled for language going on in the chat box in League One. He spoke up fairly quickly, and I'll throw it out there to everybody that, you guys should govern yourselves. Ty, myself, Spud, Reggie, we're not always going to be reading the chat box. So if something's going on in the chat box, I would expect, all the owners in the league to say, you know better than that, pipe it down a little bit. Scheduling. Final weeks of season 1 is going on in League One. There are a ton of games in both conferences that are very important. It's kind of funny though. I just attempted to help somebody schedule a game, and one of the responses I got was, "Well, it's hard to get excited when you're already eliminated from the playoffs." And I responded in saying, "Yes, I understand that, but for instance, this team that's trying to hunt you down and play is very much in the playoffs, and the people that he's fighting for a spot over really don't want to see him get not a sim, but get to play the computer and get an easy win." I explained my position. So I'm saying that again, whoever does listen to this show, if you are one of the teams that have been eliminated, please take into account that the shoe could be on the other foot. You could be in contention, trying to get a wild card, and you could be relying on getting your games in and making something happen to get in, and your opponent might be slack because they're out of the playoff race. Ideally, I don't want to see teams playing the computer, because then the other people that are hoping for losses and whatnot are kind of, get a little bit bent out of shape. On the flip side, you could easily say, well, Team X, I'll use myself as an example. I lost 2 or 3 games, close games that I blew and I shouldn't have lost. So in the end, maybe it all falls back on me, and that's why I didn't get in. But like, in fairness to the other people, I really, really want to preach that you attempt to get your games in. One more thing I want to cover is both leagues. We're planning on running multiple seasons in both leagues. In order to best pace myself for this and all the admins, I've asked for some help, and we're still under discussions on how that's going to be. One huge asset for both leagues is Mark Gates. Mark joined the league a month or 2 ago. He has a ton of experience doing the layout. He has a program that he plugs the stuff in and it pops up and he can see what's going on. If he has to make changes, he makes them, and then he puts them in the layout, and it works great. So Mark will be helping with the layout. We got Ty, myself, Spud, Jay, Reggie. At any time, if a message is sent by an admin, you can believe that it's been discussed between the admins, and if a message is sent by a particular one, they're actually speaking for all of us. So if a message is sent in the future regarding a rule or the upcoming draft or connection issues or scheduling your games, if one of the admins sends it, it's definitely coming from the mouth of all the administrators. There's 2 leagues. It's going to be a lot. Basically, that totals 8 seasons. I'm excited about League 2. I'd like to keep it, make sure it builds up steam and gets just as good as League 1. So, in order to make that happen, we got to all be on the same page. That's about it for what I had to cover, unless Ty has some questions for me.
You know what? I think you did a good job of covering a few of the hot topics of late in the community. So I don't know if I really have any major questions for you. I guess one question I would have is, I've been talking with you and Reggie about a NBL radio show, the way we used to have last year, as opposed to CoachTy's Corner, with me going off on a topic or my opinions and views. An open radio show that the whole league has a number to, where people can call in and maybe talk about issues, rules, the playoff race, things of that nature. And I kind of haven't got a response from anybody as to what a timetable's looking like. So I guess my question would be, are there plans in the immediate future for an NBL radio show for the entire league to call in on?
I would, we did that, like you mentioned, excuse me, we did that, I think, 2 or 3 times last year. The last one we did last year was hilarious because everybody called in. It was playoff time. I'm more than willing to do that on a quarterly basis, I guess. So, obviously, Ty, you would be a big part of that, and and Reggie would be a big part of that. So if you guys can fit it into your schedule, I say we do it on a quarterly basis.
I just think it gives everybody a chance to kind of, it was basically the chat box, but on the telephone, and I thought it was cool, and I thought it made some good rivalries. And the whole Kofi versus the World rivalries basically all started on the radio shows, with him coming on and calling people out and people taking exception. I just think it's a good thing. So, basically, whenever you guys are looking to do something like that, I'm in. And at this time, I know you got things going on later on tonight. I got a League 2 game. I don't really have any other questions at this time. Once you get off there, I'm going to kind of go over some of the things you went over, because it kind of goes in line with what I was going to discuss for the show anyway. But I'd like to offer you any closing remarks you may have, and thank you for your time on the show today.
Yeah. One thing you and I talked recently about, last year we had game previews and we had little game summaries after a game. I obviously would love to see more than that. However, last year it seemed like there was 3 to 4 to 5, maybe 3 or 4 guys that we counted on to write those things, and they wrote them, and we were doing that in the beginning of the year. But as far as, I don't have a problem continuing to do game previews and doling them out to specific guys. Now that the site seems to be completely up and running and we're able to post these fairly easily, we can certainly get that started again. But as far as when you see I have a picture of, let's for instance say, on League 1 there's the Carolina Panthers versus the Chiefs. There's a picture. Ideally, in a perfect world, like last year when we were doing a game summary afterwards. And last year I did a lot of those myself. I would look at the box score and try to get a vibe of what happened in the game. Then I'd write a little 2 or 3 paragraph blip about it, and then I'd link it to the picture. This year we can still do that, and I also think that it's possible now that everybody has a sign-in and a user that they can go under the forum under NFC or AFC conference notes, they can create a topic. For example, I could create a topic tonight, Philadelphia at Tampa, and I could write 3 or 4 paragraphs, and then I could email the commish. Well, obviously it's me, but I could email him and say, hey, I just posted something in the conference notes. If there's room, can you attach it to a picture or, something like that on the front page? I'd love to see that. Now, I'm not expecting everybody to have the time to do that. But, I leave that as an open door to anybody. I'm going to look at the schedule real quick. The Jets at Jacksonville, if Trevor played the game and he could offer a little 1 or 2 paragraph, story about it, he could go right under forum, he can go right under AFC because it's an AFC matchup, and he can write a little blip about the game, and he could shoot me an email or a text and say, hey, Mike, I just put a little blip about the game. You want to link that up to something if you can find an appropriate picture. Ty and I did that quite a bit last year. Ty actually had some good interview ones with Coach Ty. But I'd love to see more of that. And, I think come playoff time we might see some videos coming up. So that would be good. Last year we had a lot of videos. So, everybody has to participate, though. When you're running multiple leagues, you're spread kind of thin. And, I welcome anybody's participation.
That's a good point. I don't want to give too much away because I'm going to get into that in my segment of the show, but I'm just going to kind of chime in on this point right here. Anything in life, period, not even just Madden, you're going to get what you give. If you don't want to practice or you don't want to lab, you're not going to win and you can't expect to win. If you don't want to participate on the chats or the forums, you don't want to submit videos, or you don't want to write stories, you can't then in turn wonder why things have slowed down on the site or blame the admins for the site not, being up and running and functioning and vibrant. I mean, it's a 32-team effort. There's 32 owners, players, participants, whatever you want to call us. And it's like that old saying goes, it takes a community to raise a child. And I think what's happened is there are certain people in the league that participate a lot in different ways. And I think that everybody's content to let those people take the lead and kind of look to those people to always step out front and handle things. And I think that in a sense, some things are being taken for granted. I mean, it's kind of taken for granted that, hey, this person here is going to jump out front and they're going to take the lead on this and they're going to do the stories and they're going to do that. And at the end of the day, pretty much most of us have lives. Most of us have wives. Most of us have jobs. Most of us have school. Our time is just as valuable to us. Just because we enjoy the league and we enjoy doing these things, it shouldn't be a burden on us to where it's just always assumed that this person's going to do this and nobody else has to worry about participating. So the more participation we get from everybody, the better off the league and everything will be.
Exactly. I mean, all it takes is somebody sending me or Ty or Spud or Mark Gates a little paragraph. If they want to say something about their team or if they made a big trade. Last year, I remember Candy would send a few articles about a few trades he made, and I would post them right away. Like you said, you get out of it what you put into it, and obviously, I'll have to be honest, I spend a lot of time between both sites. Obviously, I don't update them both as much as I would like. Basically, my updating happens when I'm up early one morning on the weekend, or if it's during the week and my wife is working a night shift, then I'll sit and watch TV and update stuff. So, yeah, I mean, if you guys want to see more, then you can, send us a little something to post, and we can get it up, and that would be great. But, it has to be collaborative. People have to all pitch in because, your admins and whatnot don't have the time, to do it all.
And that's pretty much it in a nutshell.
Yeah.
I have a question for you at this time there, Philly.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what. I have some to spud out there. I have some work to do tonight. My Eagles are free falling, and I need to stop the bleeding. We're still in the thick of the wild card, so I have a big game tonight, and maybe I should get a little practice time in and make sure I got everything lined up right.
As you should, because as soon as I'm done with the show, I'm about to hit the lab because I got a big game with Green Bay in League 1, and I got a League 2 game tonight possibly. So,
yeah.
I'll see you around, and thanks for stopping by the show today.
All right. Well, thanks for having me, Ty, and we appreciate your weekly episodes of Ty's Coach's Corner. So we appreciate you just taking the time to do that.
Not a problem. Thanks to Reggie as well for that.
Thank you, Reggie, and we'll talk to you guys later.
All right. There you have it, folks. That was Philly and Canada, the commissioner, giving you the commissioner's State of the NBA address, so to speak. With that said, we're going to jump into the Coach Ty segment of the show. We're going to try to keep this thing moving along. I like the fact that I've been keeping the shows at or under an hour the last 3-4 shows, make it a quicker, easier listening. Quicker and easier for the listeners out there to turn it on while they're doing something and just kind of listen to it. What I want to talk about is, and I'm going to touch kind of a little bit on some of Philly's things, but I'm tying this thing up in a different direction, a nice little neat bow on it. And basically, the segment's going to be on how to improve your game to Madden 13. How to improve your game. I'm going to start off this segment because there's a ton of different ways that you can think of how to improve your game, but I'm going to start off by giving you guys an overview of the game. I know the last 2 shows I came out and said I wasn't a great big fan of the game. I've got to say now that we're probably 2.5 months into the game, I'm starting to turn a little bit. And the way I'm starting to turn is I'm seeing the game differently in terms of, yes, the game has faults. Yes, the game has issues. But I'm starting to see the game for what it is, and that's probably the most realistic Madden that they put together up to date. And I was thinking about this a lot for the topic today, and I was thinking about 12 and I was thinking about 13. And I believe 12 was heavily dependent on user skill and gimmicks. In other words, if you had great stick and you could jump up and face throw or rocket catch, or your stick was really good and you could jump up and user pick the ball, this is before ball hawk, I mean, you were a formidable opponent. If you had 1 or 2 blitzes that you could run all game long that were really hard to block, you could be a very devastating player in Madden 12. And in Madden 13, the emphasis of the game in terms of user and gimmickry has been cut down, and it's a much more realistic game in terms of you've really got to mix and match things. And I think that they've made this game to where the average or maybe not so good players or new players could jump on this game and be more effective. Like if you was a newbie last year, with all of the users and all of the gimmickry, it was going to be a long season for you. Whereas this year, if you understand the game of football and maybe you played a Madden or 2 before, you have a better chance of success. So that being said, there's definitely some things that can be tweaked, but I do applaud the fact that I feel that the game is more realistic. I do like that, and it's kind of making me see the game in a different way. Now, don't get me wrong, there's still issues with this year's game, but that's going to be every year. I mean, yeah, I said last year was more gimmick-based, but this year I see just as many gimmicks. This year, instead of everybody face throwing, everybody's pass leading. Or everybody's throwing tight end streaks up the seam. Or everyone's no-huddling you every play because the defense can't set right because there's certain aspects like show blitz that you can't use. Or no one's playing defense, everyone's dropping back in the zone D and playing coverage D all game. So those are definitely things that, you know, they need to be tweaked, they need to be looked at. But overall, the game is somewhat headed in the right direction, and the right steps were taken to try to make a more realistic product that we can enjoy that more closely resembles the NFL. Now, that being said, I I'm going to get into my adjustments and preparation segment. I'm going to tell you, in my humble opinion, what I think you can do as a player to basically make your game better or improve during the MAC 13 season. So now I'm going to start from the very beginning on this, and the first thing I'm going to do is talk about how to pick a game plan and how to pick a playbook. And I know a lot of you guys are probably thinking, really, Ty, that's the best you got? Come on, man, who doesn't know that? But I think in this game sometimes it's a lot more similar to real football than a lot of us think. And I think that sometimes if you follow and execute the bare basics, that in itself translates, and you'll be surprised how much better your game will be. Here's what I mean. If you were in the draft last season, and let's say you picked, let me think of a good team example. You picked the New England Patriots, okay? That was your team. I think a lot of people make a mistake of not playing to the strength of the team they have. What a lot of people do, and I've been guilty of this, not this year, but last year I was guilty of this, was I had my playbook and I had my scheme. And irregardless to whatever team I got, I was going to force my scheme and playbook on that team, and they were automatically going to be what I wanted them to be. And as I played in certain other leagues like C4 and other areas where they were top-notch players, I got exposed. And I got exposed because the personnel I have didn't fit what I was trying to do. Perfect example, I was running and gunning last year, and I had the Buccaneers in C4, and I tried to impose that high-flying style on the Buccaneers, and Josh Freeman couldn't make any of the throws. The receivers couldn't hold on to the ball. They didn't have good catching traffic, and it was slow. But I was trying to play this up-tempo, aerial assault type of game, and it didn't work, knowing I had LeGarrette Blount, and I should have been looking to pound the ball and go to a more ground-based attack. So when I talk about basing your game plan and your playbook off your team, I think you realistically need to look at the team you have. You need to look at the personnel on that team. You need to chart what you believe that team's strengths and weaknesses to be, and then come up with a game plan accordingly to that team. If I'm the New England Patriots, I'm not looking to ground and pound the ball. Okay? You got Tom Brady, you got two of the best tight ends in the game, and you got Wes Welker in the slot and a host of receivers. I'm looking to come up with a game plan that suits that strength. Okay? If I'm the 49ers, I'm not looking to become the greatest show on turf. Yeah, they got Randy Moss. Yeah, they added Manningham. Yeah, they got Vernon Davis. At the same time, they probably have the best offensive line in the Madden game, and maybe in the NFL. They've got Frank Gore, Kendall Hunter, LaMichael James, and Brandon Jacobs. It doesn't mean I'm never going to throw the ball with them, but I need to play to that team's suit. If I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I'm looking maybe to run a balanced attack because I can count you out with Jacquizz Rodgers and Michael Turner. And at the same time, I got Gonzo at tight end, and I've also got Roddy White, Julio Jones out there. So I'm looking to play a more balanced game. So the point I'm trying to make is, guys, don't let a playbook pick you or a game plan pick you. If you want to be successful in 13, you need to look at the personnel you have and then decide what kind of game you want to play. And then based on what kind of game you want to play, then pick a playbook. Let's go back to my example. Okay? I have the New England Patriots. Okay? The personnel offensively dictates that I have a pass-based attack. That being said, I'm probably looking to develop schemes that are more pass-heavy. And that being said, I'm probably looking at playbooks that are more pass-heavy, like the New England playbook. I'm probably not wanting to take the New England Patriots and force my Bill Walsh playbook on the Patriots because it doesn't fit that personnel. And I think you can be average players that way, but you're not going to be good players that way because you're not maximizing the attributes of the team you have. And in case a lot of you guys haven't noticed this year, the game is heavily based on attributes. Depending on the scheme you run, it actually affects the attributes of your players. And I'm sure by now, a ton of you guys have seen that, even during trades. You may have a player that you want to trade that's rated at 82 overall in your scheme. You want to trade him, you trade him to Joe Smith, and Joe Smith is saying, hey, wait a minute, Ty, that guy's not an 82, he's a 68. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's an 82 on my screen. But come to find out, he's an 82 because my scheme maximizes his attributes. Whereas on Joe Smith's team, he's 68 because they play a different scheme. So the game is heavily dependent this year on attributes and schemes. So definitely You want to make sure that you're maximizing the potential of your team. You're picking the right game plan for your team, and then the right playbook accordingly. So that's the start of how you want to improve, you know? So you definitely want to make sure you have the right playbook and the right game plan. Another thing about playbooks, just my own opinion. You know, I noticed in the Madden community that there are always about 3, 4, maybe 5 hot playbooks in the community for the year. Perfect example, last year was Houston. Everybody and their mother ran the Houston playbook. Now, pros and cons to jumping on the bandwagon. Well, it's a hot playbook for a reason. There's normally a money formation in that playbook. It's pretty hard to stop. So if everyone else is having success with it, why wouldn't you want it so you could have success with it? I mean, that's the thought. That's why everybody jumps on the bandwagon. I actually think the opposite. I stay away from the quote-unquote hot playbooks. This year, Pittsburgh's a hot playbook. Carolina's a hot playbook. The Redskins. In Carolina and the Redskins, because of the read option stuff, Pittsburgh is huge. Kansas City is gaining traction. Those are like the big 4 playbooks that really, whenever anyone talks about playbooks, those are the playbooks that are talked about. Oh, excuse me, number 5, New England. I think the opposite. I try to stay away from those books. It's no offense to those books, but here's the thing. If you have somebody that plays a lot of league play, a lot of online ranked games, like let's say me, do you know how many times I'm going to see that Pittsburgh playbook? So guess what, smart guy? When you play me in the league, and you come out in Steelers Cross, you think I don't know what you want to do out of that formation? I mean, out of that play? You think I haven't seen that before? I'm going to be sitting right there, right at the end of your money route, waiting for you to go and throw that ball so I can ball hawk you to death and jump that route as soon as you throw it. At least that's my mindset. So my opinion on popular playbooks is if you're one of those guys that wants to go with the flow, I don't knock it, no power to you. I would rather find a playbook that's a little bit more under the radar, that maybe not a ton of people are using, like let's say the Eagle playbook, that has as potent a formation as any other playbook that a lot of people haven't seen. So when I'm playing somebody online, they can't sit there and look at what I'm running and say, you know what, I've seen that before. He's in this formation, so he's going to do this. You're going to have to figure that out by the time you do what me and you play. Hopefully it's the third or fourth quarter, and I'm off by 3 or 4 scores, so it ain't going to do you no good this game. Maybe next game it'll do you some good, but not this game. So that's my 2 cents on playbooks. The importance of practice. I can't stress to you guys enough how you're going to get from Madden 13 what you give into it. Every single one of us is a different situation. Some of us work 2 jobs. Some of us are married. Some of us go to school. Not everybody can afford to get on the game and log 1, 2, 3 hours a day. I totally understand and realize that. But going back to what I said the difference in Madden 13 and Madden 12 is, let me tell you what a big difference is. In Madden 12, you didn't have to put that time in. You could go and get you a hot ebook. You could live that ebook up, not even live it up. Grab 1 or 2 money plays from that ebook, not pick up the sticks, jump on a ice cold, but because you had a few ebook money plays in your back pocket, you could do damage. Wrong. That's not going to happen in 13. And I think that's where a lot of frustration for a lot of people have come in. They don't put the time into the game that the game deserves and needs for you to get better. They hit a few websites. They steal a few tips. They grab an ebook. They're going to play in 30, 40 minutes. They grab 3 or 4 plays out the ebook. They pick up their sticks, and they jump in and play their game, and they get their ass kicked and handed to them, and then they're scratching your head going, you know, this really sucks. What happened? You know, I don't like this. Well, you don't practice, brother. What did you expect was going to happen? Remember this year, you can't very easily determine if someone's in man zone. Okay? You've got to get out there. Your hot blitzes aren't going to get in every down. You actually have to scale and work this year. And even the stuff that you do have that's good, it's only going to be good for so long in the game. Because you can run a nice blitz on somebody 2, 3 times spread out in the game. By the third or fourth time you're trying to run it, man, the offensive line's AI is so good this year that all of a sudden, they're picking up that right end. It was getting loose on that blitz. All of a sudden now, that halfback is coming all the way from the left side of the screen. He's cutting your guy's knees out right in front of the quarterback, and that second guy getting through. So you got to be creative. So it's not that I'm dropping a great jewel here on people, but you know what, guys? this year more than ever, you have to lab. You have to practice. And, you know, how you lab to practice is your business. My opinion, honestly, I like to lab first in practice mode. Run a play a few times, see how it works, what the weaknesses are, etc. Then I like to go and play a computer game. Okay, see how it looks, you know, in a play call situation. And if it passes that test, I like to go onto my friends list or I'll jump in an online rank and play a couple of games that way. Now, I know a lot of us here in the community know each other, and a lot of times we see each other and we'll jump on and play each other. I'm thinking about that lately, and I'm not so sure that the best idea to do is to lab against guys from the NBL. And I'm going to tell you why. Most of the guys in the NBL have recording equipment. You know, you hear talk of scouting reports all the time. At the end of the day, guys, all everyone is doing is when you play them, they're videotaping your game. Okay? It seems like a fun, harmless lab game. Not really, because guess what? Now they got a foul on you. Okay? And sooner or later, 5-6 weeks down the line, when you and them play, and all of a sudden, you was moving the ball effectively in the lab, and now you get in that game and you can't do jack squat. Guess why? Because they ran that damn recorded game that you and them played in the lab. They broke everything you like to do now, and they created a defense just for what you like to do. Now, they're not doing nothing wrong by doing that. They do that in real NFL. Every week in the NFL, when the Giants are going to play, let's say the Cowboys, you think that the Giants coaching staff hasn't broken down tape of Dallas? They've watched Dallas' game from last week. They've watched Dallas' game from all the weeks prior, and they've watched when the Giants and Dallas played week 1. So there's nothing wrong with a coach doing that. But what I'm telling you guys is that you're playing into the enemy's hands when you jump in some of these lab games. Okay? So take that for what it's worth. Me personally, I'm thinking that, you know what? Maybe I should start staying away from labbing with some of the league guys. Well, if I am going to do it every once in the blue moon, perfect example is me and Fogron. Every once in the blue moon, me and Fogron meet online, and we'll see each other online, and we'll jump in and play each other in the game, and then we may not play a game for, I don't know, a month and a half. That's fine. But do I probably want to play Fogron every day? I don't know about that. What do you think is going to happen when him have to play the regular game? Either he's got to come up with something totally brand new, or so do I. Whereas I'd rather play a bunch of my guys on my friends list and play some online rank games against people I don't know, and then play Fogron and have the element of surprise at my beck and call. So we talked about game plans, we talked about playbooks, we talked about the importance of practice, we talked about scouting. And while we're on the topic of scouting, I'm going to break down how to scout an opponent without recording equipment. Because all of us don't have it. And it's not rocket science to scout somebody. So I'm basically going to give you guys a little bit of a window into CoachTy's world as to what I do to prepare for a game. Perfect example. I am going to play the Green Bay Packers in League 1 this week. Now, I've already played Doc once, so I have an idea of what he liked to do. But if I didn't play Doc, I'm going to tell you exactly what I'm going to do. And that's, I'm going to jump on the PlayStation, which I'm on right now. I'm going to jump into Connected Careers mode. I'm going to scroll over to the 4th tab, which says More. And then the Personnel, My Careers, Statistics, Strategy, History, My League comes up. I'm going to go over now to Statistics. I'm going to click that. And there's a couple of different ways I can do it. But what I like to do is go into the league schedule. Okay, so I just did that. League schedule is booting up right now, and it shows for Week 14. The first game is Broncos versus Raiders. Now, if I scroll down, I see here toward the very bottom, Lions versus Packers, second to last game. So remember, I'm approaching this as if I haven't played Doc before. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to L2 now, and I'm going to scroll up to season week 13. So I'm looking at season week 13, and I'm looking for the Packers. Now, it says here that Green Bay played Minnesota last week, and they won 38-14. Now, this is how Ty scouts. So I'm clicking on that game from last week right now. Okay? Now, immediately the first thing that comes up is the box score. I'm not concerned about anything Minnesota's doing because I'm not playing them. I'm concerned about Green Bay. So when the box score from last week comes up, I see that Green Bay had 369 total yards, which is pretty damn decent. Okay? He had 161 yards rushing. He had 208 yards passing. So the first thing I'm looking at now is, man, this guy's got a balanced offense. I can't just pin my ears back and try to rush this guy. He's going to run the ball. I can't just worry about locking the run down because he will throw it. So automatically now, going into that game against Green Bay, I'm realizing that I'm going to have to play a pretty balanced game on defense. So now that I have the numbers, what I want to look at next is the player stats. And the reason I want to do that is I want to see who Green Bay's go-to personnel is. Now, the first thing that comes up when I play player stats is Aaron Rodgers had a 157.4 quarterback rating. That's almost a perfect quarterback rating. He threw for 217 yards. He had 4 TDs. So what this tells me is this guy must be doing a lot of short to medium passes that are pretty consistent. The guy's not throwing a bunch of wild, long, loose, reckless passes that can get picked off. The guy has a West Coast type of offense. Okay? So now let's look at what I've learned so far. I've learned that the Packers are pretty balanced. They run and pass about the same amount. When he does pass, it's West Coast style. It's short and medium. So now, that was just passing. Let's go and look at the rushing. The Rock Stephen Talent, 16 carries, 115 yards. He ran for 7.2 yards a carry. Okay, so now I don't need to worry about James Starks. I don't need to worry about Jacquizz Rodgers. Now, it doesn't mean that he won't use them to run, but I know his workhorse is going to be Howland, and I know Howland's a speed back. So now I know who I have to stop on the run when I play Green Bay. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to look at the receivers. Who was the main target? Jermichael Finley, 8 receptions, 176 yards, 3 TDs. After Jermichael Finley, the next leading target was Randall Cobb with 2 passes for 16 yards. Okay. Next receiver, Jordy Nelson, 1 reception, 25 yards. Greg Jennings, 1 reception, 5 yards. Now, so I have this information. So let's put this in a nice little neat bow in terms of how you want to scout somebody. I told you guys how to access the statistics. I told you guys what you want to look for in the last game. I told you how to access the box score. Now we're going to summarize. The Green Bay Packers last week had a very balanced run-the-pass offense. Okay? The Rock Stephen Howland, his speed back, did most of the work, and he ran for 7.2 yards a carry. That means there must have been big enough holes in Minnesota's defense to where whenever he ran, he almost basically had close to a first down. So what I need to watch on my defense is I need to control Stephen Howland. I need to control and understand he's a speed back. He probably wasn't going up the gut. He probably was going around the edges. So I need to formulate my run D based off that. Whenever Aaron Rodgers threw the ball, he was efficient. He didn't have no picks, and he only took what was there. Now, almost all of his passing offense went to Jermichael Finley. He's a tight end. Folks, tight end for the most part lines up in the seam. So if I had to guess, due to my experience in the game, he was simply lining Finley up in the seams, and whenever he had a favorable match with Finley in the seams, he passed with either inside or out. So guess what's going to happen when Detroit plays Green Bay? You think I'm not going to be all over Jermichael Finley? You think I'm not going to set up defense to watch that seam? You think I'm not going to have a cover one spot type defense set up with my spot in a deep zone to follow Finley and be playing out on the outside? If Green Bay throws that ball in the seam to Finley when he plays me, Aaron Rodgers is going to have some interceptions that day. Okay? It's that simple, folks. Now, I look at the defensive side, too. So I've looked at everything on offense I want to see for Green Bay, and now I go to the defense. I want to see who's making the majority of his tackles. Now, when I look at that, Charles Woodson has 4 tackles, A.J. Hawk is 3, Desmond Bishop 2, Nick Perry 2. People might want to know, why do I care who's making tackles? Well, 9 times out of 10, the person with the most tackles is the person who's being used. Okay? So when I see Charles Woodson lead the team in tackles, I'm knowing that when I play him, his user is most likely going to be on that safety. Okay? If his user's on the safety, I know where I don't want to throw the ball. I know who's available on what side of the field and what's going on. I also look to see, how many sacks he recorded, because it gives me an idea of how often he likes to blitz. And I see here last week that Green Bay had 2 sacks, one from A.J. Hawk, the middle linebacker, and one from Nick Perry, the other linebacker. Maybe they were called blitzes, maybe they were block shift because it was the linebackers. But if I'm seeing 7 and 8 sacks, I'm knowing that this guy's sending the house at me, and I've got to get rid of the ball quick. Last but not least, I take a look at the interceptions. Okay? Green Bay had 3 interceptions last week. No, 4. 2 from Sam Shields, 2 from quarterback Sam Shields, 1 from the middle linebacker Desmond Bishop, and 1 from the free safety Morgan Burnett. Why is that important? Well, it kind of gives me an idea of, once again, where he's using his guys. If you look at this, 3 out of his 4 interceptions came from the secondary. Okay? The fact that the linebacker had the pick tells me that was probably he's playing zone coverage, and he probably dropped back. So I know when I play Green Bay now, I've got to watch for some zone. And I also know that he's very active with using his quarterbacks, which is a key for me when I throw the ball, of knowing and understanding that he's using guys in the secondary, and I might want to be careful to stay away from his user. Now, I did that just for last week's game. Now, typically what I do when I'm scouting somebody is I look at more than one game. Anybody can have a good game or a bad game. I look for trends. So that one was box score results for Green Bay for last week. I'm going to look at the week before that and the week before that. I do a total of 3 previous games. I look at common trends. And from those common trends, that's how I come up with a game plan of who and what I want to stop. But I can tell you right now, off the top of my head immediately, I'm knowing that this guy's a versatile dual threat. He runs as much as he passes. He's using his speed back for his run, so I've got to watch the outside and make sure that the inside of my defense is shored up. And when he is going to throw the ball, I've got to know where Jermichael Finley is and take him out of the game. If he's going to beat me, he's going to do it with somebody other than Finley. Now, I think that's pretty good stuff when you look at a scouting report. You know, I don't need recording equipment to cover with that. And no, that's not anything slick I'm saying about guys with recording equipment. I'm just telling you that you don't need recording equipment to effectively scout somebody. Recording equipment is great, but if you don't have it, you can still come up with a good, viable way to put together a game plan to face somebody. So now, we've covered game plans, we've covered playbooks, we've covered the importance of practice, we've covered how to scout an opponent. Now, the last thing I want to cover is how to prep for next season. Guys, I am 5-7. I'm a notoriously slow starter. Obviously, this season I started too slow. And my chances of making the playoffs are slim and none. I have a very slim shot. I've got to win out. Philly's got to fall on his face. I've got to overtake Spud, and I've got to overtake Green Bay. But I still have a shot. The point I'm trying to make is that it's not very likely I'm going to make the playoffs. Now, go back to the conversation Philly had. I could very easily decide, because I'm not in it, I'm going to be a poor sport, I'm not going to play my games, I'm not going to really have consideration for my other opponent because I don't have her to play for. Guys, that's stinking thinking. That's the wrong way to approach this. This is a 4-season endeavor. This is season 1 of 3 more to come. Guys, there is a ton of valuable work and information that you can get and learn right now in the game that's going to make you better for season 2, 3, and 4. Let me tell you how you want to approach this, okay? I don't care what your record is. Right now, just like a real NFL general manager, you need to be getting your team ready for free agency, the draft, and season 2. This is the time right now while you don't have nothing to lose to determine what your tradable assets are, who you're going to go with next year, where you're weak at. You need to be honest with evaluating yourself. Play guys that you haven't played before. See what they have to offer. See if they can make your roster. See if they're pieces you can trade. See what you need to draft for the next upcoming season. So these next 4 games are really important games, whether you have a winning record or not, because you're building and getting your team ready for season 2. Okay? Try out those new schemes that you laughed, that you were afraid to try in the game because you didn't know how they were going to work. You don't have nothing to lose now. Let that rip. Let it go. That way, you know what you have going in season 2. Try out a new playbook. Maybe you're running the New England playbook. Well, you're 1-10. Obviously, it hasn't worked too well for you. Maybe now you want to switch up and try a Philadelphia playbook. Try it in-game mode when you play these games. If you lose, who cares? You didn't have nothing to lose anyway. You weren't going to make the playoffs. And aside from that, guys, if you have any pride, whatever happened to wanting to be a spoiler? Guess what, fellas? The Detroit Lions CoachTy's team once again is 5-7. I got a game coming up with Doc who has a playoff shot. Okay? You think I don't want to wreck that? Doc's a good dude, so I'm not saying that with malice. But if I'm not going to go, he ain't going. That should be my mindset. I'm not saying this, but that should be the way I approach the game. I play Candyman. He's 11-1. He only lost one game this season, and he only lost to Doc. You think I want to be a feather in my cap and build some good momentum for me to say, you know what, I gave him his second loss? I want to put that there in his mind. Yeah, brother, you got the division this season. I'll see you next season. And here's a loss on the way out. I'll see you next season. I want Candyman knowing, damn, when I play Ty, I'm going to pack a lunch. I play OSU. He's looking at a playoff spot. He's battling neck and neck with San Fran. Imagine this run for me. Let's say I win out the rest of my games and I'm 9-7. And in that process, I knock Doc out of the playoffs. I knock OSU out of the playoffs. And I shake up Candyman by beating him and maybe costing him the number 1 seed. You know what? Even if I don't make the playoffs, even though I didn't get to the promised land, I did damage on the way out, and I ruined a lot of other people's chances. And that's the competitor in me. And that should be the competitor in all you guys who don't have a playoff shot. You still have a chance to ruin someone else's shot who does have a shot. You need to be able to send that message to people. You need to let them know you're in a welcome mat. You ain't going to get stepped on. But when they play you, they better pack a lunch. It's no different than when we were kids and we got into fights and you win some and you lose some, but even in fights you lost, this is back in the days before everybody was shooting and stabbing and jumping everybody, by the way. You could actually get into a fight, get your ass kicked, and have somebody go, you know what, man? I'll be tired, but I'll tell you what, I really don't want to fight that dude again. And if you fight him, you better understand and be prepared that that dude's going at your throat. It ain't no easy out. Now, what you're doing by not being motivated to play your games, by giving up, is you're ensuring that not only are you going to go out like a chump in season 1, but you're going to start that way in season 2 and 3. You're starting out behind the 8 ball. You're not a playoff team for a reason. Okay? Something you was doing was wrong, and you're not doing anything to address it. Instead, you're laying down and not scheduling games, giving up 7 losses, and being an easy mark for people. Where's your pride? Okay? I hope that this little pep talk, I gave you the tools you need with everything you need to do to prepare your team for next season, so that when season 2 kicks off, you're in that hunt. You're a top 10 team in this league. You can do it. There's still 3 more seasons to go. Who cares about season 1? Okay, it didn't work out the way we wanted. You got to get past that. The game just came out. It was new. You got your feet wet. Let's go. Get it in gear. So now that we talked about adjusting and preparing yourself to play Madden 13 better, I hope there was some good tips and info in there for you. I'm going to quickly go down Ty's top 5 because I think the power rankings are bull crap. And I know that Philly can't do nothing about it. He doesn't make it. And I'm glad we at least have a power ranking. But if it's not going to be the right power ranking, what good is it? So now I'm going to give you the official Ty top 5. Starting with the number 5 team. Now, the number 5 team on the NBA power ranking is the New England Patriots at 5-7. That's bull belief. And the reason why they have them number 5 is because they're leading the AFC East. Okay? The real NFL power rankings are not based off division leaders. They are based off records and strength of schedule. So that's what I'm giving you. Okay? So Ty's top 5, at number 5, the Jacksonville Jaguars. MDL has them at number 8 at 9-3. That's bull. They're number 5. They are a top 5 team. Okay? They got a few losses. We all know how high-powered that offense is. They can be beat, but they start by stopping that highly effective offense run by Coach UGA. Right now, the Jags are 9-3. They're still in a pretty tight race with the Texans, who are only 1 game behind them in the AFC South, but they will be a number 5 team. At number 4, the New York Giants. On the power rankings for NBL, they're number 2. I have them at number 4, and the only reason I have them at number 4 is because of that loss they took to Green Bay. Now, granted, Green Bay is not a horrible team, so I'm not saying that like, wow, Green Bay, beat them, so they stink. That's not the case. Green Bay's got a playoff shot. I've played him. He's beaten me. He's a tough out. But that recent loss when the Giants were rolling so good kind of knocked them down a peg or two to me and exposed the Giants a tad bit. Not much, but showed that they can be beat. because prior to that, they hadn't lost in I don't know how long. So I got the Giants at 4. At number 3, the Baltimore Ravens. The Baltimore Ravens are number 1 in the NBA power rankings, but San Diego just beat them, and there's no way in the world I can have Baltimore ranked higher than the team that just beat them with the same record. Okay? So, as a matter of fact, not the same record. San Diego actually has one more win. So how they're number 1 on the NBA power rankings, I don't know. Ty has them at number 3. The number 2 team in the land, and a lot of people may be surprised by this. There's going to be some controversy. The San Diego Chargers. A lot of people know what controversy, Ty. Well, a lot of people probably wondering, how in the world are they not number 1? I'll tell you why they're not. They're not number 1 because the Chicago Bears are number 1, and I'm going to tell you why Coach Candy's team is number 1. Coach Candy's team lost their first game of the season to start 0-1, or their second game of the season they lost to go 1-1. They have not lost since. They've won 9 or 10 in a row. As impressive as San Diego's win over the Ravens were, they too struggled recently with a one-time loss or two that really shocked everybody. And even though their record's impeccable, even though the Chargers are 11-1, the Chicago Bears are 11-1 as well, and they have not lost since week 2. Okay? Nobody's been able to crack that. So, due to that, even though San Diego's one was impressive, Chicago reigns number 1 on Ty's top 5. So, Coach Candy's Bears are number 1. Coach Fogart's Chargers are number 2. Coach Oakfishow's Baltimore Ravens are 3. The New York Giants are number 4, and the Jacksonville Jaguars are number 5. Quickly, the MVP race. The way I have it right now, this is kind of in Ty's order. Obviously, that could change. Number 5, Eli Manning. Okay, the Giants are super solid on both sides of the ball. Eli Manning has been the trigger man of one of the best teams in the season all year long. Great stats, protective of the ball. Definitely got to be considered for MVP consideration at number 5. And number 4, the only defensive player to crack my list so far, Brian Urlacher, Chicago Bears. What a perfect fit in Coach Candy's system. Coach Candy is the number 1 ranked guy, team-wise, in our league. Therefore, the best teams got to have a best player, and in my opinion, the MVP of that team has been Brian Urlacher. Forte's been good, not great, but damn good. Michael Vick has been good, but not great. Same thing with Brandon Marshall. But one guy that stands out to me in Chicago is how effective Brian Urlacher's been in the middle of that zone. Coach Kenny likes to drop him back and dare you to throw into the middle. And sure enough, we all do it, including me, and we throw to the middle, and it gets usually picked by Brian Urlacher because he's sitting there in that hook zone or that deep zone, and for some reason, he attracts us to throw the ball to him. I don't know if we're flustered. I don't know what happened. We all know he's dropping them back there, and we still throw that man the ball. This is a middle linebacker, folks, with 11 picks. Okay, not to mention 30 to 40 tackles. Okay, number 3, Jamal Charles. Jamal Charles might even be higher, but Coach Jimmy has kind of been struggling at times. Not struggling. I say it's been a little inconsistent. He's been playing great ball this year, better than last year, but he wins one, he loses one. He wins one, he loses one. Kind of like me. But Jamal Charles is a beast. I mean, he's got to have, Adrian Peterson started out like a brick house, and all of a sudden, Jamal Charles, 1,938 yards, 8.8 yards a carry, and 24 touchdowns. Jay Charles should be cracking 2,000 this year, and if it wasn't for the fact that Jermaine was 6-6, Jamal Charles might be even a little high on my list, but as it is, he's number 3 with a chance to get to number 1. Number 2, Vincent Jackson. Now, Coach Spug's another one. Tampa Bay is 6-6. Same thing I was just talking about with Janae. So a lot of inconsistency there. Inconsistency or not, just like Jamal Charles, Vincent Jackson has 94 receptions for 2,349 yards. Every time he gets the ball, he's averaging 25 yards a catch. Okay, that's a quarter of the entire football field every time he catches the ball, folks, with 22 touchdowns. There hasn't been a guy in our league that's more valuable to his team than that guy. As a matter of fact, Philly joked about it in the chat box, and There's kind of some truth to it. Without Jamal Charles, what in the world would Tampa Bay be or do? Not Jamal Charles, Vincent Jackson. So even though their record's not the greatest, we're talking about most valuable players, and you cannot deny Vincent Jackson's stats. Number one, and this guy, to me, is number one with a bit of a cushion, actually, right now. He can be beat in the MVP race, but this dude just, Ben Roethlisberger. Coach UGA's Jacksonville Jaguars starting quarterback, Ben Roethlisberger. I mean, what else can I say? Jacksonville's been a top 5 team in the league all year long. Ben Roethlisberger, 257 completions, 400 attempts, 5,054 yards. So Drew Brees' record will be broken here this week. 54 touchdowns. I mean, these are ungodly numbers, and it's not like Jacksonville doesn't run the ball. Now, if Jacksonville didn't run the ball, it'd still be impressive. But, like, let's look at me. I don't run the ball very much with Detroit early on. I'm starting to now, but, of course, if I'm not running the ball, Stafford's going to have these ungodly numbers. Okay? Roethlisberger's got better numbers than me at number 2 at Stafford, and he runs the ball more than I do. And he doesn't have nowhere near as many picks as I do. So what Roethlisberger's doing is just rewriting the record books. He's on one of the best teams in the league, and he is number 1 by far. Really quickly, we're going to run through the NFL games here, and we're going to wrap this up because we're closing in on an hour. So I'm not going to go too in-depth with my game breakdowns or picking the games, but I am going to pick them real quick, and I will see you guys next week after that. Game 1, Carolina-Chicago. Game 2, San Diego-Cleveland. San Diego. Game 3, Seattle-Detroit. That's going to be a tough one. I say Seattle continues to struggle. Detroit continues to struggle, just like Detroit in the NBL, which is me. Seattle's going to go ahead and get the mild upset there. Jacksonville and Green Bay, that's Green Bay all the way. New York Jets and Miami is going to be a great game. The Jets have never swept the Dolphins under Rex Ryan's tenure. There's been a lot of crap. So there's been a lot of shit talking leading up to this game. A lot of people injured for the Jets on this one. I am going to come back to that one. Atlanta and Philly, another tough game. As a Giant fan, I hope Atlanta wins. I have a feeling Philly is such a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde team. Atlanta's narrowly gotten by the last 2 games. Philly shocks the world. Not shocks the world because they're not a bad team. Philly is going to get the mild upset and put their names back in the talk of the better teams in the league. Philly is going to beat ATL. Washington and Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is old and slow on defense. RG3 is a stud. But Dick LeBeau shuts rookies down, and they're in Pittsburgh. I'm going to go ahead and say Pittsburgh hands RG3 a loss. Let's go with Pittsburgh. New England and St. Louis across the pond. New England. Indianapolis and Tennessee. You know, I don't know what to say about Tennessee, expecting them week in, week out. Anthony Luck's been inconsistent in that Colt team too, but they're young. I'm going to say Tennessee continues on the road. Tennessee gets that win. Oakland and Kansas City, I'm going with Oakland. New Orleans and Denver, that's going to be a shootout. There's not going to be much deep play by either team. I'm going with New Orleans. Even though Peyton Manning likes to play fast up tempo, you don't want to get into a shootout with New Orleans. I don't care who you are. New Orleans. San Francisco and Arizona. Arizona is worse than their record looks. They look like a playoff team. Their quarterbacks are horrible. They've got no offensive line. They've got nothing around Fitzgerald, and that's just not a good combination. The defense can only hold them up so long. San Francisco wins that game. So the last 2 games I have to pick, Miami and New York. I'm going to go ahead and go with Miami in this one. It's going to be a tough one. I'm going with Miami. And my New York Giants in Dallas. Uh-oh, the rematch. Dallas beat us in week 1 when Jerry Jones plays. Jerry Jones is guaranteed the victory. Dallas has been consistent ever since beating the Giants. The Giants play some good football. I'm going with my Giants. When in doubt, go with my team. I'm going with my Giants to pull it out. That's all I have for Coach Ty's Corner this week, folks. I hope you found the show entertaining. I hope I was able to provide some tips or some insight that you might be able to take and use in your game. And I want to thank Coach Phil in Canada for joining the show today. I want to thank my engineer, Reggie, for making it all happen and putting it all together. Thank you, folks. Have a great Madden week. play your games, and let's start gearing up for this playoff run and free agency. Thanks, folks. Take it easy.